So unfortunately, this chapter came out late officially on both Viz and on Manga Plus. As a result, things kind of got scuffed, and this video must be shorter than usual. It is what it is. However, I do have in the near future an emu theory video coming out, oh my goodness, on what might be the most important number in One Piece, and that one may blow your mind. So be on the lookout for said emu video later this week. Numero uno. Numero dos is that if you haven't seen it yet, you can check out my full live stream reaction to the chapter on my Requiem channel, link in the box below to that stream and to that video. And of course, go on my Patreon or on my Kingu-san channel, link in the box below for the anime reaction content. Soon, quote soon, I'm gonna say quote soon, my reaction to One Piece episode 1033 will be uploaded to the Kingu-san channel. Of course, all of it unedited on my Patreon. So that all being said, let's dive headfirst into this chapter of One Piece while we break it down, of course, pacing and structure, character components, and finally, story progression components. Now for this chapter, there are a total of 5 parts. Number 1 is on the Sunny Go with a one-time shift forward. Number 2 is a shift to Navy headquarters in conjunction with the Holy Land. Number 3 is a shift to Kamabaka Queendom. Number 4 is a shift to Lulusia in the Grand Line in conjunction with the Holy Land. And number 5 is another time skip forward a few days later on the Sunny Go, somewhere nearby, apparently a winter island. So the pace of this chapter I think is good. Not great, not outstanding, but just overall good. The core reason being is because the less parts in a chapter, the better when it comes to One Piece, where we have a lot of focus. And the only real thing that's a bit iffy in the structure is how we do flip-flop to a lot of cuts of the Holy Land, from Navy headquarters to the Holy Land, to Lucia and the Holy Land again. But because it's happening in Lucia, is being orchestrated on the Holy Land, it does make sense. And also how the Marines, they can't listen in at this point in time, because what's happening in Lucia should not be privy to Marine ears. So it does make sense when it comes from a structure standpoint, though albeit you could argue a bit too much cutting. That being said though, it is a minor thing, and overall I thought that the pace of the chapter was, again, good. Now for character, I'm going to start off kind of weird, but I want to throw it in there because I think it's possible. Number 1 for character is going to be the Sunny Go. The Sunny Go may have reacted to Luffy when Luffy announces the end of his dream. That's always kept hidden. Now, the reason why I say may, is because there could be an onus for this being the Sunny Go's spirit, the water spirit or the cool Balter man actually reacting to Luffy in some way. Because apparently in the film red trailers, we do see that there is some sort of bipedal lion rat, an actual rat. But it looks so bad. Ugh. But the Sunny Go transforms into something like that. And you can argue that is onus in some respects for a cool Balter man of the Sunny Go kind of being real or active. And then also, keep in mind, the manifestations can be somewhat subtle. So for example, of course the merry-go, it did fix itself on Skypiea, which in hindsight was a big tell of the Sunny Go spirit, but at the same time, there are more subtle moments. Like for example, when they're leaving Skypiea, and then they're in free fall, the merry-go's jaw drops and the eyes pop out. But it does indicate, I think in some respects, that the ship has a spirit. The ship is somewhat, quote, alive, end quote. Number 2 for character is going to be Monkey Jesus, Luffy. Luffy tells the final part of his dream to his crew, which is nothing new, and of course, it's always hidden from us, the readers. But this time around, there is actually more emphasis compared to other parts that Luffy needs to be Pirate King, specifically for the last part of his dream to come true. This I didn't get from the previous parts where Luffy actually mentions his dream. It's more so like he wants to do this after he becomes Pirate King in the past. But in this chapter, it's more emphasized that he needs to be Pirate King in order for this last part of his dream to actually come to fruition. After that is going to be Emu. Big emphasis on big. The One Piece is real big. Don't look it up, please God. Listen, this is a big stretch, okay? Like, think of Luffy's Gomu Gomu no Bazooka at the end of Drum Island, when he's gonna send Wapol packing. But Emu might be controlling whatever was used to destroy the Lulusia Kingdom. Emu might have some sort of iPad, and through his iPad, he's actually able to pinpoint, triangulate where Lulusia is like a drone and just eviscerate it. Emu could be controlling this thing remotely. After Emu, we have Zoro. Zoro is able to cleanly cut through water, which is fluid, obviously. But it seems to be an improvement on his swordsmanship skills, maybe in the same vein as the Firefox style, where he's cutting through an element here. So Firefox style, he cut through fire, which is like energy. And in this case, we're cutting through, let's say, water and liquid. And I can't recall the time where I've seen Zoro actually cleanly cut through water like that, outside of the combo move that Luffy and Zoro had against the giant tidal wave at the end of Water 7. And that's not a cut, that's like a tunnel that Zoro and Luffy make together. So this one, I'm gonna kind of throw it in there where I think it is a better indication of his sword skills improving. Because again, the water is a nice clean cut. After Zoro is going to be Sanji. So Sanji has showcased improved observation haki skills. So previously in chapter 672, when Sanji was in Nami's body, he had a tough time finding Kirimon's torso in the lake, even though he was using observation haki the entire time to try and find where he was. But now he's able to actually pinpoint Bonnie accurately through a body of water. And specifically in the Viz, Sanji's hearing Julie Bonnie scream. They use the word scream. So Sanji, somehow, some way, was able to hear someone scream through water. That feels like a sort of fishman play. It does. So that I do think indicates an improvement in that hockey skill for Sanji. After Sanji is finally Julie Bonnie. Julie Bonnie's bounty has risen from 140 million to 320 million, which is, of course, Zoro's old bounty before the events of Onigashima. And that is it for the character section of this video. Now, the story progression components for this chapter. Number one, Caribou is on the damn ship. It looks like they can't sense him, which is odd if they can't sense him. The barrel does have chains on it, but the chains on the barrel aren't on the lid of the barrel. Maybe they chained him up like old school style, Fisherman Island, like Frankie did. Maybe he's not chained and he's actually free. It's hard to really gauge, honestly. But there is a good chance that he did not hear Luffy's dream, because he says in the chapter that he can't really hear the Straw Hats. It'd be kind of weird for Caribou, all characters, to know, like what very, very few special folks to Luffy know. Unless the plan here is to make Caribou honorary Straw Hat, which would be very interesting. After this is, of course, Luffy and company finding out what is going on with Vivi. And of course, most of them are very, very concerned. Luffy's concerned, Sanji's concerned, Nami, of course, is concerned, Chopper as well. And of course, Zoro, a lot more stoic and a lot less so. Zoro has this idea that whatever's going on with Vivi, she can handle it until she needs actual help, which is partly true because he does know to what Luffy told Ace. However, Ace is also dead. And seeing Chopper, Nami, Sanji, and Luffy make fun of Zoro is also harkening back to the end of Alabasta before Robin reveals herself to the crew, where they're all sad, but Zoro's trying to maintain frame. There's also apparently some news that has more connections to Luffy himself to the people, but Luffy doesn't care at this point in time. And Robin will tell him in the future if it's necessary, which is very interesting. So this could involve Grand Fleet members. I know some folks believe that Doflamingo escaped. And it also might be the Boa Hancock situation involving Blackbeard, where that is not mentioned in this chapter. So This probably involves Kobe too, where Kobe got captured by Blackbeard, Amazon Lily was raided by Blackbeard, and so on and so forth, and Luffy is right now more focused on Sabo's whole thing. After that is Luffy telling the entire crew about the end of his dream. So this is a big reveal for the Straw Hats. Potentially the Sunny Go 2 did also peep that. And now the Straw Hats are aware of what Luffy wants to do after it's all said and done. And folks should know by now, because I said it years ago, that I believe that this end of the dream is a gigantic party, a global party. That is essentially what I envision. All the continents, all 20 million islands, everybody. But that is my own personal theory on that one. I could be wrong, I could be right, only time will of course tell. After this is that Sabo reveals that he did not kill King Cobra. There was some ideas out there that he did kill King Cobra, but like not directly, but indirectly, like it was a mistake. No. It appears that Sabo flat out had no involvement at all in killing King Cobra. So relationships between Dragon and Sabo have been mended. Because Dragon did say in previous chapters that if he did kill King Cobra, there'd be a reckoning between himself and Sabo. But what's also very important, of course, is that Sabo's words about not killing King Cobra are in conjunction with the empty throne. I almost said Iron Throne. No, the empty throne. And there's actually a translation difference between the official and the scans, where the scans say, and I quote, "It happened in the throne room at Pangaea Castle. I thought that there was no king of the world, but the empty throne wasn't empty. I saw ... and then it cuts." But then the official says, "The empty throne in Pangaea Castle, the throne that's supposed to remain forever empty, because there's no king of the world, actually has ... So the scans kind of give you more of a sense here that the Rev would know that the empty throne is not empty, because he literally says the empty throne wasn't empty in the scans. But in the Viz, you don't get that. It's actually a lot more vague in the Viz, where Sabo's kind of like still leading up to that, and then he gets caught off. Maybe it means nothing. Maybe. But it is a difference here where you could infer different things between the scan version and the Viz version. And also keep in mind here that Sabo appears to be talking about the moment that we saw in the story in chapter 908. Now, of course, after this is Lulusia Kingdom, or the lack thereof of Lulusia Kingdom, because this kingdom in the Grand Line, not the New World, that's a mistake on both the Viz and the scan, so therefore it is an actual editor or Oda mistake, where the kanji actually read the New World, but in reality Lulusia is in the Grand Line. It's the same place where Bello Betty and the boys pulled up, and they save that entire kingdom from Pinkbeard. Well, that's in the Grand Line, that's not in the New World. That being said though, Lucia Kingdom in the Grand Line no longer exists because of an unknown weapon. Now, the running theme / meme, I think, is that whenever Caribou's involved, his fate is somehow always tied to the ancient weapons. And now in this chapter, we have Caribou's in the barrel. Later on in the chapter, where we see 16 death rays come down from on high, smiting and obliterating all of the Lulusia Kingdom. Given the meme and the trend of Caribou, it's a safe bet, a very safe bet, that what was just used was ancient weapon Uranus. And it looks like ancient weapon Uranus can fly, and like various Yonko, can also control the weather. So that one, not too sure, but keep in mind here that Lulusia was already slated for extermination before the news of Sao being there reached the Gorosei's ears. So if Imu knew that Sabo was there, that's Imu's own thing, because the Gorosei themselves clearly did not know that Sabo was there. Sabo was, according to them, just simply put, unlucky. After that, we jump forward in time to the future, where we have the warm eddy currents, which make an upward moving body of water that's very extreme, almost like an extreme version of the sea snake currents in chapter 490 after Thriller Bark. So once again, the New World showcasing that, yeah, it's a pretty crazy place. And of course, finally, for story, Julie Bonnie is in with a new bounty raise. And my best bet here is that Julie Bonnie is going to be our segue into what happened during the saga of A Few Good Men. So that is it when it comes to the story progression components for this chapter. Now being said, final thoughts. Number one, Bonnie. I think it's actually very simple. My guess here is that Bonnie just recently got into that warm eddy. Bonnie got smacked by Kuma, and while Bonnie was going on her vacation, the warm eddy current just came out of nowhere and swallowed her up. Kuma's ability then deactivates, and then she's stuck there. But it happened very, very recently. If not, then maybe she was by herself on a ship going into the new world. Like old school chapter 1 Luffy status, like in the barrel, going to the new world, and then she got caught up in that warm eddy current as a result. Maybe, but I want to believe that's probably Kuma. That's the first thing. The second thing, of course, Emu. The whole Emu thing, obviously, like, yo, what? Whoa, okay. Emu is not messing around. Countries are being obliterated just like that. This thing is pretty devastating. Which, yeah, I would agree. But people are wondering, hold on now, why Buster Calls? Why even bother with so many different foes and threats when Emu could just utilize this thing and wipe them all out? Now, my guess here is that there must be some sort of condition or conditions that must be in play here before this thing can be utilized. Whether it's folks' life force or let's say the charge time, it just can't be used haphazardly or sporadically. There has to be some sort of preparation for it to be activated. But the results are, again, pretty devastating. And I think the biggest factor is not just its capacity to, let's say, destroy countries, but also its stealth functionality, where if it does control the weather, it can always hide itself from view, and then in doing so, be able to wipe out countries and islands. Because we've seen people like NL, given the right weather conditions, he can vaporize islands. We've seen someone like Kaido literally levitate island and rip it from the natural bedrock and fly it around like a madman. So island level destruction stuff isn't new in One Piece, but being able to do so stealthily, like some sort of stealth bomber in the clouds, that is some really scary stuff, because it really is kind of ominous where you don't know who is next on the chopping block. So all in all, this chapter had some pretty good leaps for the overall story progression, without a doubt. I would still say that after Wano Country, the pace of the series as a whole, it seems to be faster and it seems to be a little more haphazard in terms of the structure. However, in of itself, this chapter I thought was relatively good pacing. And of course, Luffy telling the Strats the end of his dream, though I'd prefer a much more grandiose, awe-inspiring situation and event to happen while or before or after him telling the dream. This is okay. So this chapter I'm giving a rating of an 8 out of 10.